Let's talk some Michigan recruiting with Steve Wiltfong. I got a few big names that were recently in Ann Arbor visiting Michigan, and we'll start with running back Marquise Davis. He's from Cleveland, Ohio. Big RPM lead for Ohio State, but this was a really important visit to Michigan. How do you see this recruitment shaking out?
Yeah, I don't think that Ohio State is going to be the landing spot for Marquise Davis. When I start handicapping this recruitment, I think Michigan is in prime position, and I know my colleague Chad Simmons agrees. He talks about how it's a premier place for running backs, and he enjoyed being at practice over the weekend and getting around the people. He thought those were people that he could really be around, Coach Sharon Moore. And he's known Tony Alford for a long time. New Michigan running backs coach was recruiting him at Ohio State. So that's been a seamless transition with them over at Michigan. Now, Kentucky, Tennessee, a couple other programs that are definitely in the mix. But Michigan looks like they could be trending for one of the most coveted running backs, certainly in the Midwest.
Another big name on campus was wide receiver Quincy Porter. He's 6'3", 190, top 10 wide receiver in the 2025 class. Now, he's also coming off a visit to Ohio State. What do you think of Quincy Porter's recruitment right now?
I think those are the two programs I'm keeping the keenest eye on, Michigan and Ohio State. The game happening on the recruiting trail. Brian Hartline and those guys in Columbus, they covet him. They're in the mix for a lot of talented receivers, and this is a young man, if he called them today and said, I want to come, they'd take him. That's how highly they think of him. They had a great visit with him over the weekend. Now, Michigan, he's been there several times, including the barbecue at the Big House last summer. Coach Ron Bellamy and the Wolverines have poured a lot into it. He loves the environment, the people, and certainly the track record of what Michigan has done over the last few years definitely speaks to him as well. So these are the two programs that I'm watching the most for Quincy, and it'll be exciting to see if he ends up wearing a winged helmet or if he's playing his college football inside the shoe.
All right, we're only a couple months into the Sharon Moore era at Michigan, but how do you evaluate so far his recruiting efforts?
Well, I think that they're in the mix for some of their top overall targets, and they're going to keep getting them to campus this spring. Official visit season is going to be big for Michigan this June. But Sharon Moore was one of the top assistant coach recruiters in the country, helped Michigan recruit some of the best offensive line classes in the nation. Now, obviously, they have the three commits right now. Carter Smith was one of the quarterbacks that Kurt Campbell and them really were high on for his dual threat ability. This is a young man that maybe not as ranked as high in the collective rankings, but on Michigan's board, they took him knowing that they were still in the Bryce Underwood sweepstakes. So that's just how coveted Carter Smith was for them. And then Eli Owens is a H-back type tight end out of Alcoa, Tennessee, that they think can be a dynamic difference maker for them in the passing game. And then Bobby Kanka from in-state is a defensive lineman that they like a lot. But they're in on some big names. We just talked about two of them. Some of the best offensive linemen in the country, Andrew Babaloa, Jack Lange, some of those guys are thinking strongly about Michigan. And so Kanoa Winston, Elijah Melendez is visiting this weekend, a linebacker committed to Miami. So there's a lot of blue chippers that have an eye on Michigan right now. And I don't think Michigan's really like trying to just push guys in. They're taking their time and want to make sure that they're getting the right personality fits as well.
Yeah, makes sense. Michigan fans, talk to me. How do we feel right now about Sharon Moore's recruiting efforts? Comment section below.